Good evening, my dear friends. I welcome you all to the Hindu and the Businessline editorial analysis on July 19, 2022. Recently, the Supreme Court has held that and upheld the laws of and the principles of bail, which guidelines the police officers and the courts in India that the person should not be arrested and put on jail and under trial, which will cause kinds of injustice and the violation of the individual freedom. The courts are advised to grant bail and expedite the bail process in a very smooth manner without putting the person arrested under stress. The old adage says that you show me the man and I will show you the law. The sections 40 and 41A of the Code of Criminal Procedure says that the bail must be granted by looking at the reasonableness, but that is, the criminal or the person who is arrested must not be able to flee and must be obeying the principles of justice by replying to a summons or attending the courts by replying to the summons. So, the Satyendra Nath Kumar, the recent Supreme Court judgment, has become the byword of law and principles for the modern law enforcing authorities and the police officers who are just arresting the victims of trial and putting them under jail and stress and trial. Even the courts are encouraging. So, with this Supreme Court's judgment and the rules of and the principles of justice being spelled out by the Supreme Court, it is hoped that the trials, the under trials are given a say of the impediments faced by them or the guilt faced by them or the shame faced by them while granting the bail. The populism in the eyes of central government sees a different angle. Populism or the social justice as against the populism is termed by the recent speeches by the central government executives that the developmental objectives helping the poor and the backward villages in the form of infra projects, that is infrastructure projects, is the requirement of the hour than populism in the form of freebies. The article or the editorial in the Hindu analyzes this aspect and says that there is a difference between the public perception of development and the freebies being doled out. At least for the time being, the vision of the public, that is, government is for them, is being doled out in the form of freebies. The people love these freebies, which is evident in the voting turnout in the elections. So these freebies are a kind of developmental objectives as popular belief and public perception emerges out of it. If this populism has to be waded out, the central government executives and the state government executives must come together to find a way out to make the people make more confident of the governments which their vote represents. So the a lot has to happen, a lot has to go through the thinking process, because this populism agenda of several political parties to win the elections is criticized. Then the United Nations and the Bretton Woods institutions, that is the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund, all were a fallout of the Second World War. The Second World War saw the manifestation of technological prowess by countries. And what happens is that now the United Nations and even the World Bretton Woods institutions are not able to stop the war in Ukraine. There is a generation difference in the opinions being formed about the world order. The older generation sees scientific advancement as the only way out of the world order. However, the younger people, or the children and the younger generation are not consulted. The article points out that a discussion between the generations must happen, and the discussion between the world's most developed economies and the emerging economies must happen. The world's most developed economies are the previous generations, and the world's emerging economies are the new generations. When the Bretton Woods institutions and United Nations were cornered by only the United States and the five veto power led powers, the world formed another set of institutions like G7. Then, when Russia was included, it was G8. After the Crimean War, Russia was thrown out and it again formed the G7. Now, including India, Indonesia, and some developing economies, it is again formed as G20. G7 was formed in 1970s and G20 was formed in 1990s. So all these institutions are trying to bring the peace and kind of economic and political freedom among the countries. However, the transgression of power is always happening, which is seen in the Ukraine war. And what happens is that the scientific advancements, the science and technology looks at the development of the world only the top down approach and the outside in approach. That is, a scientist keeps the mind outside the physical discoveries which he invents or discovers, and thinks of only the leverage effect of the scientific experiments. He is then discovering the lever which will make his scientific experiments helpful for the world. And when the scientific discoveries and the findings and the outcome of which destroys the world, we need another set of scientific experiments and outcomes to mitigate the problems caused by the previous scientific discoveries. This is going on. But consulting the younger generation, what they need is the requirement of the hour. Consulting the younger generation and learning from them will make a very big difference in the way in which the world order is seen. Sending rockets in other planets, thinking that when this world is destroyed, we will move to some other planets by scientists, is a very weird option. We protecting this planet becomes the sine qua non for ensuring the rights and the resources for the younger generation. Whether we are consulting the younger generation that what they need, because we have to keep the resources alive for the younger generations, the coming generations. So a consultation process between the intergenerations must happen. The people living in forests are very much adept in using the natural resources. It is very absurd to think that a developmental project or scientific project will cater to their needs more than what they are used to by living in forests. Then moving on to the business line, we have the first article stating the Reserve Bank of India's June report, the bulletin, and the central government's June, the first quarter report, and the June monthly report says that the inflation is tamed in and the growth prospects are going very high. However, the current account deficit is still a cause of problem, because current account deficit we are not able to bridge. We have bridged the fiscal deficit by bringing more crude oil under cess and the export of oil, the petroleum oil, under excise duties, and even customs duties have been imposed on gold. However, we are not able to control or the bring in the import bills, because the rupee is going on weakening against the dollar. The private investments have seen a very big improvement, 46% in the last 1 year period, and it has reached a 3 trillion rupees figure. So private investments are pouring in, automobile sales are improved, and the government expenditure has also increased by looking at the 1 trillion worth of funds being transferred to the states. However, still the current account deficit is a great misnomer and a very big problem which has to be tackled. Then the RBI's, Reserve Bank of India's recent dividend payment to the government has been very low. It has reached 33,000 crores rupees. It was a near to 1 trillion rupees a year back. What makes this dividend to the government lesser and lesser is the fact that the Reserve Bank of India has made forex interventions in the past 2 years, and which has seen that the mismanagement, there is no professional management in the interest rate risk and the forex risk management. So the arbitrary interventions in the forex market by buying the forex dollar and then selling it forward and reaping profits, which has been the norm of the Reserve Bank of India without thinking the necessity of such interventions. When the exodus of foreign capital is going on happening, the Reserve Bank of India resorts to more selling of the dollars, which is just not helping, and the provisioning of the mark to market losses. Mark to market losses means when the market value of the dollar is revised upward by weakening of the rupee, the Reserve Bank of India has to make some provision in its books for making the loss. This is mark to market loss, and 94,000 crores is the mark to market loss last year, which is which is the main reason why the dividend to the central government has come down. The Reserve Bank of India must have a professional management of the currency risk, which is what is proven from the interventions in the forex market. Then the COVID-19 has seen the upward movement in the selling of the flats and homes, and home buying has improved. The work from home and the study from home environment, which was just prevailing in the last 2 years, has seen more home buying. In cities in India, around 15 lakhs people, 14 lakhs people are without homes, and 11 lakhs homes are without in are vacant. So, bridging this gap was the necessity, because most people are now staying in mofussil areas in small towns, because the hybrid culture of work from home and work from office is going on. So, the more buying in the cities or towns near the workplaces are happening now, rather than the central places where the people are working, have been working. So, this COVID pandemic has induced more home buying, is a research paper being provided in the business line today. Friends, I have come to the conclusion of the business line and the Hindu editorial analysis. Meet you tomorrow with some more interesting topics on these aspects. Till then, bye, good night.